Hi, I'm Daniela DeLeo.
And I'm Ricky Ramirez. And tonight, I'm going to be asking a few questions as it pertains to public relations and the class that Daniela took this previous semester.
And I will be gladly answering them. Alright, so we had to have a little change of scenery because it got dark and the mosquitoes were out. So here we
Yeah.
are.
And I want to let the hair loose, so this works out. We're all happy. All right. First question. Was there any particular reading or book that you went through this semester that piqued your interest, intrigued you?
I would definitely have to say Philosophical Leisure by Annette Hobla really did that for me. I feel like she did a really good job at communicating to her audience what it actually is to communicate authentically, which is something that you need to know if you're in the public relations field.
Okay.
It's really important to be fully aware of what you're releasing out into the world for people to read. Um, and when you're doing that, you need to be sure that your writing has substance and is affecting your readers in the way that you want them to be affected. So one thing that really stood out to me from this book was the difference between what recreation and leisure is.
Which would be? Would you care to elaborate?
So recreation is pretty much you're just doing something to show off, and like a group activity or something. There isn't really you're not really engaging your mind. There's an end goal that you're focused on, like winning, or like you're not. There's no freedom of thought or anything.
Some society today.
Yeah, and it
Okay.
really like limits the person to a particular like way of thinking or something, whatever you're participating in. And so leisure is removing yourself from public life and engaging in something that actually fuels your mind and makes you think. And
I'm a leisure person.
it's really like the experience and what you learn from is important, not winning, or there isn't like an end goal. It's just like being in the moment, and you kind of lose yourself in the moment to a point where you reach a point of excellence, and that's where creativity comes in, which is very important in the public relations field, which is something I think everybody needs if you're in that field, because you obviously want to stand out from other press releases or whatever is being um, given out to their readers. Another thing that I found really interesting that we learned about in this class was anti-intellectualism, which I had never heard of before, which is pretty much just like dumbing everything down, and if you're doing that, you can't really move forward as a society or expect to move forward.
Wouldn't that be categorized as phatic communication?
You're learning. Um,
This is a class I definitely take.
Phatic communication is pretty much just like self-talk and narcissism, which like gossip. It just implies like superficiality, and it's really driven by like emotional tendencies to just. It's based on the individual. You want to just talk about yourself all the time, and it's kind of just a form of like acknowledgement. But it is important to point out
Share
that
some traits.
it is important to point out
Mm-hmm.
that this is necessary for life, kind of. You're going to need it at some point. Like, if you're talking to the cashier, like, that's phatic communication. Um, the problem is we're just moving to a place where it's only phatic communication and there's nothing of real substance or anything.
We sure are. We sure are. It's my belief that that's a generational thing.
I think that it definitely is a generational thing.
Without a doubt.
We see it all the time in our everyday lives, social media.
You know where specifically?
Instagram.
Yeah. Look up and down your feed. That's all you gotta do. And you see self-glorification. You see people looking for confirmation from others. You see that ties directly into what you're
PR.
talking about. It's bad out here. It's absolutely generational.
That's definitely a problem if you're trying to pursue a career in PR, because when you really need to think about who your audience is, like, and building relationships, and once you do, who your client is, because you need to think about who you're talking for. You're not talking about yourself or for yourself anymore. You're talking about your client, and everything you do is for your client, pretty much. So you need to think about their core values and like their identity and like their mission or vision. Like, for example, Lyft and Uber, they both have different um, mission statements, like what they want to be doing for their company. And so just like different goals and objectives for a message, and there also could be different ways, like policies, to get that message out that you need to be thinking about for different clients. So that's important too. Okay, so Ricky went to go make some food because it's getting a little late. But going back off of what we were saying before, it's important to keep in mind how messages are sent out and what is even in those messages to begin with. So, another thing that I learned from this class was about content and form, or substance and style. And so, form expresses content, and content is pretty much the what of what you're writing, like the thought process behind it. And form is how you're going to be writing it, whether it's bullets or a paragraph, a list, and pretty much just like a visual aid to keep your reader interested. And even though they are different, content and form, it's important to keep in mind that they do function together and need one another to be functioning correctly if you want to get your message out in a way that's effective, which is also important when you think about the internet, TV, and radio. They're all different, but the form and content is the same in each one. For example, in the internet, you're using secondary orality and literacy. So you need both aspects of it to function in the way that it does. We also briefly learned about integrated marketing communication, which really stood out to me though, because I did not know that even existed, but it includes public relations, sales, and advertising, and it's pretty much just multiple sources of the same message. So you're going to send the same exact message out just in different ways, whether it's public relations, a sales promotion of some sort, or you're doing an advertisement for it. And something that I also was not aware of really was the actual difference between public relations and advertising. Public relations, you really want to focus on building relationships with people, and that's how you're going to get your message across. While advertising is more persuasive and you're trying to sell something, it's action oriented. But advertising has a limited audience, while public relations, your audience is not going to be limited if you're constantly trying to build relationships with people and not just trying to sell them something. In public relations, you're really building your relationships from what you're sending out into the world. The press releases you send out, the news releases, anything, you're building relationships from that. So it's important that what you're sending out is a perfect copy of it. So you need to edit and rewrite and really put emphasis on that to your work. And some of the tips that I learned to edit and rewrite I had never even thought about before, such as changing the font or size of your writing when you're rereading it, or changing the visuals and format, or printing it to reread. All of that will really shed light on something that you've written that isn't correct or that you want to change. If there's a grammar mistake, something like that, doing any of those will help you to realize that. Also, if you just give a copy to a friend to proofread, I'd probably give it to him. That will definitely help as well. Having another set of eyes check something out. Just giving your paper or your whatever you're sending out time to really just sit is something that I never really thought about before taking this class. That's definitely a tip that I would take. I would get it done earlier so I could look back on it before it's due. Usually like 1 to 2 days is a good amount of time to just leave it and then go back to it and see if there's anything you missed. And in those 1 to 2 days, something else will come to your mind. One of the assignments that I actually did give it a little time to rest and like really think about it was our blog post. The blog post was definitely my favorite assignment by far. I just really liked the fact that we got to express ourselves and be creative, and It had pictures and colors and whatever format we wanted to do it in. I really enjoyed all of that, and it honestly made me want a blog myself, which is something I definitely would look into, but I would never have looked into that before taking this class. Overall, looking back on the semester, there was a plethora of things that I learned from Dr. Anwar that it would be way too much to condense into a 10-minute video, so I'm going to leave you with this. Philosophical leisure is definitely the most important thing that I learned, and I'm definitely going to implement it into my life as soon as possible because I feel as though, as a human being, it's necessary in your life. You need to take time to really just sit back and engage in your thoughts and really think about stuff that is not gossip and is not superficial, not small talk, but really engage your mind into the world.
This is interesting. This is interesting hearing from you. How do you plan on implementing this? I'm curious.
Well, Dr. Anwar taught me that jazz music is really leads to creativity and
Jazz
such.
music.
So I'm going to be listening to jazz.
Really?
As I have already started.
Yeah. Dr. Anwar, let it be noted that I myself am quite the jazz listener. So she will get her daily regimen of philosophical leisure on the regular.
Well, you heard it here first. I'm definitely going to be indulging in philosophical leisure these days with him. Thanks to him.
You can bet.
Kind of regret him being in this video now. But to wrap things up, my experience taking this course was divine, in my opinion, in large part due to the way Dr. Anwar teaches the course. You could tell that she really cares about her students and really wants them to take this knowledge with them, not only to the PR world, but beyond. So, thank you, and good night.
Good night.
Hi,
Hello.
I'm Danielle DeLeo.
I'm Ricky Ramirez.
And
We're hot and spicy.
hi,
Good evening,
I'm Danielle DeLeo.
and I'm Ricky Ramirez, and I'm going to be asking a few questions as it pertains to public relations. That ant is fucking
Yeah, me too.
That ant fucked me up.
Me too.
That's a little.
Hi, I'm Danielle DeLeo.
And I'm Ricky Ramirez,
You're an idiot.
and I forgot
And
the
you're
lines.
an idiot. My bad. Hi, I'm
Oh, we're on. Okay.
Another thing that I really found interesting that we learned about in this class was
Yeah, crack that.
Yeah.
interesting that we learned about in this
What was
class was anti-intellectualism, which is pretty much just like dumbing everything down, and you're not really, if you're doing that, you can't move forward in society. What is so funny?